Hi friends, my name is Nikki and I am the host of Source Clarity. I am so grateful that you are listening to this episode, that you are in this community. Source Clarity is an opportunity for us to harness high levels of clarity so that we're living a life that is in accordance with who we really are, so that we're living life in accordance with our highest levels of fulfillment, so that we're living life in accordance with what we are built to do in this world. When we feel absent of clarity in our lives, we're living life that is influenced by noise, negativity, fear, doubt, worry that resides within the mind. 98% of the thoughts that we think, they are not even our own. We are absorbing all of the chaos and the noise of the outside world. And when we harness what we in this community we call source clarity, when we harness high levels of source clarity, you're living life guided by the source, capital T, truth. It's the greatest North Star that we have, is to live life guided by your highest expression. And ultimately, when you harness high levels of source clarity, you strengthen the relationship with your intuition. When you strengthen the relationship with your intuition, you harness even higher levels of clarity. And it's ultimately living life guided by the who you really are self. It is the difference between swimming in murky water. Swimming in something I love to experience in life is swimming in the ocean. Swimming in the ocean when the water is murky is a little bit frightening, especially because sharks have a little bit more of a difficult time seeing in murky water. And that's especially when those attacks happen, is when they can't see as well. I'm pretty sure sharks have pretty good vision, but when they can't see as well and they mistake. Anyway, my point with this is when you swim in clear water and you can see all the fishes. I love to go to San Diego and swim amongst leopard sharks. They're so beautiful. And the last time I went, we saw a turtle and the stingrays, and it's actually the most beautiful, heart-opening experience there is. And ultimately, when the water is clear, it is more fun. It is more vibrant. You can see more things. And ultimately, when you harness clarity, that is the experience you have. And so in this community, we basically focus in on ways to harness higher levels of that source clarity to connect with your greatest potential, what you're built to do in this world. And again, if you're in here, it's probably because you are someone that has a zest for growing, for life, to understand the mechanics of this universe a little bit more, that has a pull to create something that this world is yet to see, something that is going to impact this planet in a really beautiful way. And I want to talk about something pretty special today, pretty incredible today. I want to start it off with a little bit of a story. So that's going to help you guys. And as you hear this story, I want to see if you can begin to decode or extract the lesson from this story. I want you to see if you can identify the lesson from this story. And maybe you'll pull something that's completely different than what we're focusing on today. But when I was a kid, I played basketball as a kid. Had a great time playing basketball, but I also had a lot of insecurities. In the 3rd grade, my dad was our basketball coach. In the 8th grade, my dad was the basketball coach. In 3rd grade and 8th grade, we won the championship both years. 3rd grade, 8th grade. And it's something that I've thought about frequently, is my dad as someone who is wildly motivating. If you haven't heard about my dad, he's so loving, so motivating, sees the best in other people and loves to bring out the best in other people. He's done that with his kids. He does that with his loved ones. And as you know, he's really great with kids. And again, in the 3rd grade, we won the championship and my dad was the basketball coach. In the 8th grade, we won the championship and my dad was the basketball coach. And something that I noticed when I was on these teams, especially in 8th grade, because I was a little bit more aware, but even when I think back into 3rd grade, that was different that he did than most of the other coaches that I had. A lot of the other coaches, I was always sort of like sensitive to how they would treat myself and the other kids, because I always felt deep down I had a lot of potential, but never really felt like I had a coach that knew how to extract that potential from me, because I was so shy. I cared so deeply about what other people thought. And when my dad was the coach, he would literally I guess, to put it simply, he would see the best in all the players. What I had found, even at a young age, even being in 6th grade or 7th grade, is that coaches would have favorites. The kid on the basketball team who was clearly better than the rest, the coach would take a liking, typically, right? I'm generalizing here, but this was like a theme that I experienced. is that the head coach would take a liking to the best player, and all the players would kind of play around the best player. And it would literally be in order from the second to the third to the fourth. And there would always be this little group that was like the best players. And then the players like, maybe myself or some of the other players that had potential always kind of felt like we were sidelined. When my dad was the coach, it was great because something that I noticed is that there would be players that on the outside, you wouldn't think were that talented at basketball itself. And he would identify each player's innate skill set that made them great and made them feel like they were meant to be playing. And not from this place of just trying to make them feel good. Like I remember we had this one kid on our basketball team. Let's say his name was Pete. It wasn't Pete, but anyway, I'll just pretend his name was Pete. I remember his name, but I just won't say it here for like the smallest chance in the world that he's listening. But I mean, he'd probably like the shout out. But anyways, Pete, he couldn't handle the ball really well. He couldn't shoot really well. And on the outside, you would think that he wasn't a great basketball player. And I'm just being honest. Pete was fast. And my dad all the time would point out, this was in the 8th grade, how Pete was really fast. And he would share that with everybody. Like, Pete is so fast. Again, his name wasn't Pete. But Pete is so fast. And he would just highlight this, and you would see this light just sort of elicit within Pete's eyes. And then he would point out someone else that was really good at rebounding. And you would see this light elicit within these kids' eyes. And it was something that I noted as, like, I realized this as a kid. I realized that he would empower the kids to focus on what they are good at. And sure enough, the kids didn't feel sidelined. All the other kids, even the best player on the team, and when I played with my dad, I was probably one of the best players on the team at that time. And we would be able to utilize, everyone was able to utilize each other's innate skill set. Ultimately, and in 3rd grade and 8th grade, we won the championship because it was legitimately a team effort, but everyone began to use their innate skill set. So if someone on the outside didn't look like they're a good shooter, what I experienced is that a lot of coaches would sort of like dismiss them. They're not a good shooter. They're not good at dribbling. They're not that good at passing. They wouldn't see that maybe they had a high IQ for understanding where the ball is supposed to be, so on and so forth, and to utilize that innate skill set. Or maybe they're just good at rebounding, and then we could focus in on that for them and make them feel good about that. And so everyone got playing time. Everyone's skill sets were highlighted, and they were strengthened, and they were talked about with the other teammates, and everyone felt good, and everyone got playing time. And it wasn't this about, especially now in the world, we talk about like participation. Am I saying that word right? Participation trophies. It wasn't about that. It was about legitimately utilizing everyone's skill sets and identifying them. Well, so many of us, we have this similar experience in our lives where we go about attracting our dreams and goals. And because many times on the outside, it doesn't seem like we are made to get the things that we desire to attract. Maybe on the outside, you think you want certain things. You're like, I don't know how someone like me is supposed to identify my innate skill sets. What most of us don't recognize is that we have an inherent high-level genius. Like Pete on the basketball team, who was utilized on our team a lot and got a lot of playing time, and his energy was really good. And his speed, he would always be open for fast breaks. A fast break is when everyone's playing on one side of the court, and then our team would get the rebound, and he was so fast, he'd be on the other side of the court and always get these fast breaks. Got us a lot of points. So if a typical coach who wasn't that talented at recognizing kids' inherent high-level skill sets, right? He wasn't good at recognizing Pete's speed because on the outside, he saw Pete maybe wasn't a good dribbler, he wasn't a good passer, he wasn't even that good at shooting. If he didn't recognize his speed, he might have sidelined him, and we wouldn't have optimized that team experience and won the championship. And I'm using this analogy for life because ultimately, to attract your dreams and goals, it's going to require you to identify your inherent high-level skill sets to succeed in the thing that you desire to succeed at. But most of us, we think we're dumb. Let's just be real. We think we're idiots. In some capacity, humanity is. We're actually all both, okay? We are all genius. We actually all have an Albert Einstein and beyond level genius within us. And we also have an equal level of ignorance within us. And so our job To attract the life that we desire, to attract the abundance that we desire to attract, is to realize that we are the best of the best at something, that we are the best at creating the thing that we were meant to create in this world. And Albert Einstein has this great quote, and I wrote it down here. It's, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And so many of us, whether we know it or not, whether we are consciously aware of this or not, we have been funneled into these different areas and attempting to activate genius in aspects of ourselves where we're not genius. Maybe we're funneled into a job that doesn't allow us to connect with our inherent high level genius. Maybe we learn certain things in school. For an example, for me in math class, if you saw my grades in school, you would think I was an idiot, right? Because I couldn't pay attention. But really, man, I was writing songs in my head. My inherent high-level genius resided in different areas. I just wasn't interested in what school had to teach. I always kind of didn't trust the history lessons that they were teaching us. Come to find out, in developing intuition, a lot of the history we learned is misinformation. And so there's genius within there. And so I'm sharing this with you because to attract the life that you desire, to attract the abundance you're looking for, but ultimately to live a life that's in accordance with what you were built to create in this world, to live a life of fulfillment, it's going to require you to abandon this idea that you are not smart, that you are not intelligent, that you are not the best of the best at something. It is a universal law that you are the best at something in the world, and you are also the worst at something in the world. And that is sort of one of the ways that this universe operates. It is on balance. Everything is both. But most of us do not recognize that innate genius and brilliance that resides within us. And if we do not recognize that genius within us, if we do not recognize the inherent high-level brilliance within us, what can begin to happen is that you will begin to slip into victimhood. And as many of you know listening to this podcast, to attract a life of abundance, of goodness, and all the things that you desire and harness clarity, it requires you to think thoughts that are in accordance with coherence, abundance. If you are not recognizing you are the best of the best at something, you're going to begin to attract more thoughts that are in accordance with that lower frequency and vibration. And this lower frequency and vibration will cause you to slip into victimhood. And this victimhood is going to begin to attract more experiences where you simply do not feel like the best. You are going to prove to yourself over and over and over and over again that you are not the best. And because you're so powerful, you're going to have all these experiences that are going to be just reflections, that are going to be evidence for you to showcase out into the world that, hey, look, I'm not the best. I can prove to you that I am stupid, that I am not smart, that I am not the best of the best, that I am victimized by the way that I was built in this world. But ultimately, it's simply because you have not focused, or let's start with this, you have not identified the aspects of you that are brilliant, the aspects of you that are genius. Okay, so what are some other consequences of not recognizing that you are the best of the best? Is that someone that may be less talented in a field that you are inherently talented in may begin to surpass you. Now that's okay, because everything in life is happening for us. And that frustration will lead you, it will light a fire under your ass, probably, and allow you to start recognizing it. But ultimately, you're going to have these experiences in your life where maybe you are more qualified than someone else. Their inherent high-level skill set resides in a different area. They begin to embark in an adventure where your real inherent high-level skill set resides. They begin to surpass you. And you're kind of going, deep down, you're like, well, this kind of sucks. What's the deal? Why does it feel like everyone surpasses me? It's simply because it goes back to this sort. It's not really that simple, but I could phrase it simply that we are the creators of our reality. And if we are not seeing us for who we really are, life is going to just sort of like a written play is going to reflect back to us the way that we feel about the self and give us opportunity to get frustrated enough to begin to change our thoughts. Well, how does this affect other areas of our life? Socially, romantically, financially? Well, romantically, if you aren't recognizing your brilliance, what's more reflective than a partnership? What's more reflective than a romantic relationship? Almost nothing. Okay, entrepreneurship is reflective, yes. Other areas of life are pretty reflective, but romantic relationship is one of the most reflective, meaning it reflects your emotional imbalances, your unresolved emotional wounds, your limiting beliefs that you have about the self more than anything. And so that dream romantic partner that you would like to attract or that you already have is going to reflect this back to you. Because ultimately, to know that you're the best of the best at something in this world, like it's connecting with you. And when I'm referring to you, I'm referring to the highest expression of you. I'm referring to your higher self. I'm referring to the aspect of you that is connected with source energy. I'm referring to the you that, is empowered. I'm referring to you that knows that you can create the reality that you're asking for. And so when you realize that you're the best at something, when you realize that you have an inherent high level genius, you've now connected more with who you really are. You begin to broadcast that energy, emanate more of the who you really are. That who you really are is coherent. That who you really are is unconditional love. So you begin to attract more coherence and more unconditional love into your life without accepting your brilliance, without knowing your brilliance, without demanding that your nervous system absorbs the knowing of your brilliance. It will just lead to compounded frustration. It will lead to feeling as if others don't see you for who you really are. It will lead to relationships of people not seeing you for who you really are. It will lead to frustration. But then the question is, what happens when we simply recognize our brilliance, simply recognize that we are genius, that we were instilled with a genius by source, the all that is? What begins to happen? Well, things begin to open up in your life. Okay? Other people begin to recognize your genius. Other people begin to recognize your brilliance. Other people begin to want to invest in that brilliance. Now, again, it takes more than just recognizing your own brilliance. Okay? It takes investing in it, giving that aspect of you tender love and care, some TLC. It requires you to, yes, invest in it, grow that innate gift that you have, but it resides within you. And life begins to open up because on the other side of your inherent high-level skill sets is joy. The things that bring you joy is where your inherent high-level skill sets reside. Do you enjoy talking about cars? That's probably an aspect of your inherent high-level genius and skill sets reside. Do you enjoy talking about intuition? Do you enjoy empowering people? I know one of my dad's inherent high-level skill sets is his ability to help people see themselves for who they really are. I'll pat myself on the back. I would say it's one of mine, is to help people recognize their brilliance. I spent a lot of my life feeling as if others did not see me for who I really am. You know, I've talked about frequently, I didn't feel special as a kid. I actually want to take that back, even though I've shared that a lot, because it was how I thought as a kid. I more so felt like others didn't see it. Okay? So I know what it's like to not feel seen. And so I am someone that I love to extract and pull the inherent high-level skill sets out of someone and help them see it in front of their face. I love helping people activate their inherent high-level brilliance and genius. I've had so many different experiences in my life where I felt stupid, where I felt not smart, I felt unintelligent, especially going through the school system, not paying attention. The teacher talking to me, not even being able to hear them asking me a question, and then me not knowing the answer. And it's really funny because a lot of our students in this community, whether it's in our intuition offerings, in our teacher activation, we have a teacher training, or I call it a teacher activation. I go back and forth. We have intuition intensive running. We have another intuition offering happening, Source Clarity Club, all these other things. And, it's funny. I do this thing where I'll ask the group a question and then I'll just kind of call someone out. It's kind of mean, but it's only kind of mean because I remember being in school where the teacher would ask me a question and I'd have no idea what the answer was because I wasn't paying attention. Now I do that with them lightly. I preface it with, I know that it's mean, and I do it with lighter questions and stuff. But because I just never knew the question. Now, when I was a kid, my brain just went to, oh, you're not smart. But if you were to look at it from a bird's eye view objectively, you would see that I was thinking I was activating my imagination during school. Is that a sign of someone who isn't smart? I was writing songs in my head. Is that a sign of someone that isn't smart? When I was on the basketball team in high school, I could never remember the plays. Why? Because I was writing songs in my head and I didn't want to forget them. But I wasn't paying attention to what the plays were, and it drove me crazy. And it caused me to feel small, and it caused me to feel small in my social life, and it caused me to feel small on the basketball court as an athlete. And this is what it comes down to. When you don't recognize that you are the best of the best, it's a chain reaction. It will attract a thought that attracts another thought that's a vibrational match to that lower frequency and vibration. But when you know you're great in any venture that you go down, again, we all have what's known as inherent high-level skill sets. Okay, we have multiple inherent high-level skill sets, but there's also something that you're the best at. So all these different things are good to recognize, but it's also knowing, even if you're not good at something, it's also kind of having the mentality that you are, like that you can be great at it, right? So I want you to take this information, and you've heard me say, like, we're all the best at something, we're all the worst at something. But if we're to simplify this episode and you were to sort of, identify a takeaway, like, Nikki, where do I go from this? I want you to take away confidence, okay, into anything that you engage with, to anything that you show up in, whether it's socially. Like, I still have these moments in new social, and it's not necessarily like big groups. In big groups of people, I'm great, or when I just meet people, I'm great. It's more on like the second, third, fourth hangout when I'm getting to know somebody that all of a sudden I can feel my insecurity arise. And so you can bring this perspective to anything that you're participating in or engaging with. If you're just learning how to paint, it's knowing that you can be really good at it, or that it's knowing that, like, you're smart. It's knowing that you're brilliant and that you can be good at it. You can get good at communicating. You can get good at communicating. You can get good at interacting with people. You can get good at absorbing high frequency information. You can get good at absorbing information and allowing it to stick in the brain. You can get good at writing. You can get good at math, at science. You can get good at it. So many of us don't even give ourselves a chance to get good at things. So many of us don't even give ourselves an opportunity to get good at something because of the self-talk. Because anytime we embark on something new, there's going to be a learning curve. And guess what you're going to feel? I'll let you guess the word. Yeah, stupid. Yeah, you're going to feel stupid. You're going to feel like an idiot at first. When I first began creating social media content, I remember before creating social media content, I'd always be like, I can totally do this. I'd see other content creators creating things of that nature, and I'd always be like, dude, I can totally do this. And then I began creating social media content, and I found it challenging. Kind of felt like an idiot. I didn't like how I looked on camera always. I didn't like the lighting. I didn't like how I sounded. I thought my communication skills were better than they were at the time. It didn't mean that inherent high-level skill set to show up on camera wasn't there. But if I had succumbed to that negative thought pattern going, Nikki's stupid and not good at making videos, I would never be where I am today in creating videos for a living, creating offerings for a living that are on video, creating different spaces, a podcast on video. I love to be on video. I make this joke all the time with my good friend Allie. We both joke about it. I'm like, I'm an attention whore, okay? So there's no better place for me to be than on camera. I love it. Your inherent high-level loves is where also your inherent high-level genius resides. So again, this is sort of a two-part lesson that you can extract. It's one, knowing that you have inherent high-level skill sets. Okay, this is still part one. You have an inherent high-level genius. You have inherent high-level genius. You are the best at something. And then the second part is to just realize in all scenarios that you can show up with confidence even when you don't feel confident. Meaning, if you are learning a new passion hobby like art, to go into it with a different mindset, with confidence, knowing that there's some aspect of that is going to activate your brilliance. It may not be the art itself, but it's your ability to have patience, to meditate, whatever it may be. So it's to show up in spaces. And I've shared this story before on the podcast, but I'll share it again. When I was on the basketball team, there was this professional basketball player, this was in high school, who used to go to our school, not when I went there, but because he was a professional basketball player. I think I might have been a sophomore in high school at this point. And he came back to visit the team because once he was on that high school basketball team, he went to our high school. And he was a professional basketball player, not the NBA. He played overseas and stuff. And he always shared, he didn't always share. A lot of high-performing athletes have shared this thing that he shared with all of us. He said, in every scenario that I was in on the basketball court, I always felt like I was the best, even when I wasn't. He says, I can't even articulate how much that helped me. He goes, even when I wasn't, he goes, you have to know that you are the best, because that's kind of how you're going to optimize your experience and give yourself the confidence to express yourself in the way that you can. You'll only be able to realize your potential by knowing you're the best of the best. And that is ultimately what this is about. So many of us, we play small in our lives because it has allowed us to feel safe. The ego's job is to protect us. And many of us are playing small. It's allowed us to go, oh, I'm safe when I play small. So we play small. We attract thoughts that are in accordance with playing small. And it leads more to a life of obstacle, adversity, and things of that nature. But I want you to see if you can begin this process of abandoning that perspective. Now, abandonment doesn't look like necessarily like it's going to go away overnight, but it's about loving that aspect of you. Okay, I know those two words don't go hand in hand, abandoning and loving. Well, yes, it's going to require you to love that piece of you that is played small, but it's going to require you to just, like a high-performing athlete, to show up in all spaces and go, I'm the fucking best. Dude, I'm like filled with kindness. I'm filled with love. I'm filled with goodness. Like, again, in regards to your social life, in regards to making money, man, I am the best. I am so good at making money. And the reason why you have to do this with all areas of life, because let's say technically you aren't good at understanding finances. That's just not the way you're built. If you know you're the best at making money, your inherent high-level skill sets will be activated. So maybe you're really good at marketing. Maybe you're really good at attracting people that are good at making money. And so you'll add them to your team. You're good at marketing, and you'll make a lot of money. You guys get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Reach out to me and let me know if that makes sense. But ultimately, if you know you're the best of the best, you're seeing yourself the way that Source does. And I think a lot of you all of you, I should say, that are listening to this podcast, Source Clarity Podcast, you have a desire. You are on the pursuit of truth. Well, if you truly are on this pursuit of truth, the truth is you are brilliant. The truth is you are the best of the best. The truth is you are incredible. The truth is you are special and unique. And so if you aren't seeing that in you, you are subscribing to illusions. You are subscribing to lies. Do you want to be someone that subscribes to lies and illusions? Do you want to be someone who's always under hypnosis, thinking that you are someone that you're not? If there were a human being that thought that they were an iguana and they were not an iguana, would you think that was a little weird? Yeah, okay, that'd probably be a little bit weird. Like, I'm an iguana. You're like, no, you're not. You're a human. Get it together. Although in today's day and age, you never know. So, but that's no different. Really, I know, okay, maybe a little bit of a difference, but still, the analogy works, than you seeing yourself as someone that is not intelligent. That is no different than you seeing yourself as someone that is not capable of attracting your dreams and goals, because that's not who you are, okay? Someone thinks they're an iguana, you think you're not smart. You both think you're someone that you're not. One just seems a little bit more silly than the other, but the truth is they're both kind of silly. So to play small, to subscribe to illusions and nonsense and chaos and doubt and fear within the mind, it's just silliness, right? And I say this out of a playful nature because life is designed to be play. I just received the most beautiful testimonial from a beautiful student and client in the DMs. And she said that what'd she say? She just listened to an episode where we talked about sort of the art in play, right? Inserting play into all of our activities and engaging play and in regards to using intuition in our social interaction and how beneficial it is for play. She's like, it changed my life. And so that's why I'm sort of saying things in this playful nature. You guys will hear me, playful frequently, or share things with a little bit of laughter involved and things of that nature, because this life is designed to be playful. And when you begin to realize you're the best of the best, and I know a lot of you are hearing this and I'm generalizing, best of the best at what, Nikki? But just start with this, the best of the best. It'll tap you more into that playful nature, because your true nature, the who you really are self, it's playful, it's abundant. It knows that things are working out. It knows. It is seen it. It is immersed in the quantum field. And in the quantum field, time doesn't really exist. The past, the present, the future, it's all happening at once. And it is totally, it is totally happy with the certainty that things have already worked out in their highest good. And so our job is to align with that. How do we align with that frequency and that vibration? We align with that frequency and vibration by really emotionally, as often as possible, rewiring the brain to see that we are the best of the best, by creating new synaptic connections between the neurons in our brain that are in accordance with we are the best of the best, that we are great, that we are incredible. Again, if 98% of thoughts are not our own and we are absorbing everyone else's thoughts, do you think most people's thoughts are ones of positivity? Do you think most people's thoughts are ones of goodness, happiness? Do you think most people's thoughts are ones of in alignment with what they were built to do? Most likely not. So it's going to take effort to frequently recognize you're the best of the best. You may feel like the best of the best one day, get up the next day, rise, and feel like an idiot again, okay? For lack of a better word, y'all, I'm saying idiot today because maybe you don't feel like an idiot. I know I have in my life, but I actually love that piece of me of feeling like an idiot. But you may feel like an idiot again. What are you going to have to do? You have to get up and feel like the best of the best again. Give yourself that nourishment that you need. Really hardwire it into your brain that you are the best of the best in regards to your emotional intelligence, your spiritual IQ, mentally, the way that you, again, interact with people, your social IQ. It's your ability to learn information. It's your ability for things to work. It's your ability to create a life that you desire. Maybe you've been integrating all this high frequency information that you've heard from all these different spiritual spaces, and you're like, it's not working. Well, maybe because there is this root belief that you don't feel like it's possible for you to be great. You simply don't feel like you're the best. Well, what would happen if you began to literally start focusing on that, celebrating your brilliance each and every day? And then others would begin to see it. And that might give you more confidence, so on and so forth. And so it does take effort, because your nervous system and your ego is attempting to keep you safe. And right now, you feeling like the best of the best in regards to any area of life, the nervous system doesn't feel safe doing that, right? It's like, that's the unknown. The unknown, we may not make it, okay, in the unknown. So I want to stay safe. I like feeling like an idiot is what the ego says. And it wants to keep you safe. I remember, let me see. I was out in Hawaii. So this is during, I had a number of years where I was traveling. I've shared this many times. I traveled about 6 months in my Jeep. Okay, I had a Jeep. I bought a Jeep specifically for my travels, and I traveled all throughout the U.S., sleeping in the Jeep. I put a bed in the back of the Jeep, so on and so forth. Went through Oregon, Idaho, went to Montana, went to Texas, all these other places. That was about 6 months. And then I went outside of, well, still the U.S., but I went to Hawaii, and then I went to Paris, I went to Greece, stuff like that. Anyway, I was out in Maui, okay, and that was probably one of my favorite places I went to along my travels when I was out in Maui. It was just so incredible. Something about that space opened up my heart. It was really beautiful. And I remember I went out snorkeling. I did this a couple of different times. They have this really beautiful snorkel spot where they have turtles, like these beautiful sea turtles, and they're so large and they're so awesome. And I remember I would practice free diving down, and it was so great and it was so fun. And then I would lose my breath. And I just began to challenge myself. There was a time when I would have been in the ocean, especially as a kid, where I had quite a bit of nervousness. And I remember having to consciously tell myself I can go down deeper. And then I would challenge myself, because we were able to like go as far as we wanted. They would let everyone out and go snorkel. And the further you would go down, you'd actually see like these certain sharks, smaller sharks, non-harmful to human sharks. And I would free dive and I'd go further and further down. And then I met another free dive like instructor guy that would just so happen to be on the snorkel tour. And I challenged myself to go as far as him. And by the second time I went snorkeling, because I had this mindset that I can be good at this. And again, I had to fight the thoughts that told me I couldn't because of all the insecurity I had in the ocean when I was a little kid. I had one of the snorkel instructors offer me a job, ask me where I worked because she was so impressed with my freediving, and then was surprised I didn't work anywhere because like they go under and they're snorkeling with us. She was literally surprised that I didn't live in Maui, that I wasn't, an instructor somewhere, and then she offered me a job. And these are the things that begin to happen. And I remember I would just love it. I would practice going further and further down and then coming up for air. And then like coming up for air is always, if you go far enough down, it can be a little freaky because you're holding your breath, right? And I would go further and further down. But sure enough, I began to feel this empowerment. And the reason why things like this feel so good when you begin to realize you're great at things, you can be great at things, is because you're activating who you really are. In that moment, I got to meet more of me. Oh my gosh, there you are, Nikki. That's who you really are. Things don't feel good because it's not who you really are. It doesn't feel good when you feel stupid because that's not who you really are. Now, again, we have equal level of ignorance, but your innate self is brilliant. Okay, ignorance just means unaware of. Okay, you have an aspect of you that you can never be brilliant if there weren't things to know. I don't even know if that made sense. See, I just activated some of my stupidity. But ultimately, the more you know, the more you learn that you don't know. Okay, so of course, there's always things to be ignorant about, and everyone has an equal level of ignorance and an equal level of genius. But when you realize you're genius, man, it is such a fun way to begin to experience life because the experiences that you do have become more vibrant. They become more interactive. I had this experience in high school where I went from feeling way socially isolated, especially as a kid in middle school, having damn near no friends. I had a couple of friends. Didn't even know if they liked me. And then I just always felt isolated. And by the time I got to high school, around 16, again, I had this, what felt like the spiritual awakening. And at 16, I had what felt like this spiritual awakening. And I began to remind myself that I am socially abundant, that I am brilliant at interacting with people in social environments. And sure enough, my social life changed. Like I began to have social abundance. It almost is that simple. Like it's so funny. So many of us overcomplicate this because there is a lot of misinformation in the spiritual world, especially new age spirituality. That's why I like to call this the higher self path. Harnessing source clarity aligns you with the higher self path. Spirituality is sort of a broad term. You could be referring to any sort of religion when you're referring to spirituality. You can be referring to New Age spirituality, which is riddled with misinformation. You could be referring to Christianity, Hinduism, all these other different religions. So I find when someone asks me, they go, "What are you?" It's a little bit difficult to describe. Now, our community knows. I like to call it the higher self path because you're aligning with who you really are. And that's the greatest spiritual evolution that you can have, is stepping into who you really are. But ultimately, in these moments, you'll get to meet yourself again and you'll love yourself. Here's the truth. We really all do love ourselves at a core level. When you love someone, it's because they're reflecting aspects of you and you just love them, okay? When you really love someone, it's because you feel understood by them. You feel like they understand what? Who? You. Yeah, but anyway. And so these are just some of the benefits of to begin this process. And some of you might be wondering, how do I begin this process of identifying my inherent high-level skill sets? We do this through intuition, okay? We begin the process of identifying, because everyone has inherent high-level skill sets that we can identify. Okay, we can do that. You can do it as well, but you'd have to learn how to develop your intuition. How do I identify what you're the best of the best at? Or how does one identify what they're the best of the best at? You guessed it. Intuition. Okay, so if you're ready to take and activate your intuition, we have a free Access Your Intuition workshop. That's in the show notes. Okay, if you're ready to begin that process. I also want to encourage you listening to this to take the information that has inspired you in this episode and to ask yourself the question, how can I begin to integrate these newfound perspectives? right? These are really things that you already know, I could be confident in. It's more of a remembering. So it's like, okay, you already kind of knew this information, but how can you begin to integrate it in your day-to-day life? How can you begin to show up in spaces? Again, you might show up in a space where you feel insecure and you're telling yourself you're the best of the best. And you're like, this doesn't work. That's okay. You may not feel like the best of the best right away. This is a process. You're building new neural pathways. Okay. In our advanced offerings, we have ways to begin this process. So if you're someone that's like looking for a little bit of guidance on that, reach out to us. But I want you to ask yourself this question for now. Okay, I wouldn't start with any of that other stuff I recommended until you begin to integrate. Start with that. Go about your life. Let life be the teacher that it is in its essence. The greatest teacher that we have is life and life's experiences, is an experience in the challenges that life has to offer and the obstacles and the adversity and the so on and so forth. So let life be your teacher, okay? Maybe you go about life and you're inspired. You're so excited to listen to this Source Clarity podcast. You're like, Nikki, I'm going to show up as the best of the best. And then you go about some experience and again, it doesn't work. That's okay. Just start somewhere. Begin building momentum. Take the data. All the students that we work with, one of the things that I tell them, I want you guys to start seeing yourself as scientists. Start collecting data, okay? The information that works and the information that doesn't. The thing that holds people back from truly attracting abundance is their fear of failure, their fear of the future, the fear of things not working out. So be a person who's excited about things not working out because it's data points. Scientists love when something doesn't work out because it is data, it is information for them, okay, to take back to the laboratory, discover, and explore. I want you to begin to see yourself as an explorer. My friend Kayla, we call her Auntie Slayla. We call her Auntie Slayla because another one of my friends, Allie, has a dog. And we're at her house one day, and Kayla was like petting this dog. She didn't know anyone was listening. Honey's like adorable. And she's like petting Honey, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I hear Kayla go, "I'm your Auntie Slayla." And I'm like, that's adorable. And I'm like, everyone, we're calling her Auntie Slayla from now on. Auntie Slayla has this Dalmatian. She's so cute. Her name is Prada. She's adorable. I just got to visit her recently. She's like the most adorable little puppy ever. Go spam Kayla's social media account on Instagram and just tell her we love Prada. She'll be like, wait, where's this coming from? Just slide in her DMs. But anyway, she has this really funny expression with Prada. She's like, because Prada's just always like sniffing something, getting into something. And she's actually one of the cutest dogs I've ever seen. And she's always like, Prada's an explorer. She's exploring. She's always exploring. And I'm sharing that with you because your essence is like this little puppy. That little puppy is just literally, I'm so embarrassed. No, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But anyway, I'll say one of the nicknames that I gave the dog. It's just so mushy-gushy. I don't know if you guys want to hear it. I call her a little plague, so I'm going to share it anyways. Precious little entity girl. But I always say she's like this little entity from God. And not to get a little too mushy-gushy, okay? Whether you're a man or woman listening to this podcast, I don't give a shit. You are a creature, a child of God. And God sees you. Source sees you the way we see little puppies. Yes, still, whether you are a child listening to Source Clarity Podcast, a teenager, or an adult, whatever it may be, Source sees you as a little child. And so you get to be that child of God. It's your birthright to be like Prada, an explorer. Okay, go explore like a scientist, like Prada. The essence of an animal just wants to sniff, wants to explore, pull data points. But somewhere along our life path, someone caused us to feel bad about our exploration, about our inquisitive nature, about our curiosity. Someone caused us to feel not smart, not intelligent. And so we had to learn. It was a learned characteristic or a trait to not ask questions. We learned to stay silent. How many of you have been in a group experience where someone like the leader of that group experience, you're at like a webinar or some shit, okay? You're at a webinar, you're at a, I don't know, motivational thing, whatever, a teacher, you're learning from someone. And that teacher asks a question. You have a question, but you're way too scared to ask. Why? Because you're worried you'll get judged. How many other people do you think probably have that same question? Probably a lot, right? And so that's what we encourage in this community is to ask questions, be that little explorer, tap into your childlike wonder. Our last Saturday service, and if you listen to this podcast, you'll hear me describe things. over and over again. Like a lot of you have heard my story about, me in high school, or a lot of you have heard the story with Auntie Slayla. And a lot of you have heard me describe Saturday service. I'm doing that for the new listeners, so just I want to say that. But, we have Saturday service. Saturday service is our in-person experience in Austin, Texas. It's a community gathering. It's essentially a church out in Austin, Texas that we are building, and it's growing, and we've had the most incredible souls that join. And last Saturday service, so I've been playing music, and I brought my guitar, and there was this baby, almost looked like this baby just learned how to walk. And this baby, I didn't see where the parent was. Eventually I did, but at first, this baby walks up from behind me. My back is up against a tree, and this baby walks behind me, and my guitar is leaned up against the tree. And the baby grabs the guitar and starts playing. And so I just continued to talk, and it sort of led perfectly into the topic. I can't remember exactly what the topic was, but it was something along the lines of getting back to your childlike self, right? This little child just showed up in this moment of just being themselves. And there was something so precious, and all the people that were there at Saturday service couldn't stop smiling and laughing because I'm teaching, and behind me this little baby's grabs a guitar, plays it. I loved it. And then eventually little baby's mom came up, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, totally fine. And they stayed, and I sang a song for the baby, and it was great. But it was such a great moment because it was a manifestation of what we all needed to see. That to know that when you're a baby, you don't think you're stupid. You don't think you're not the best of the best. And truly to realize you're the best of the best is to get back to your childlike self, is to get back to your childlike wonder, childlike exploration, is to become that explorer like Prada, like that little child grabbing the guitar and playing. You don't have that self-criticism. And so really rewiring the brain for success, it really brings you back to your innate vibration. Your natural vibration is high, which I find pretty interesting. And in that, you just find joy, like Prada, like that child, like you when you were a kid. So I want to thank you for being in this community. We attract the most high frequency, brilliant souls from all around the world. We attract the most incredible intuitives. We have so many of you intuitives in training that impress me every single day. So many of you in our different communities and our different offerings that are just growing. And it's so fun to be a part of. I never know how to end these. Yeah, I guess thank you. Yeah, thank you for being a part of this community. You're so incredible. And yes, we'll be back next week. Alrighty, friends, stay awesome and authentic. Peace.